When I left Gary's band, I had about, I think it was $5,000 that I had saved, and I took $3,000 to buy the van,
right? And
I took $1,500 to buy what had just been released, the first Oberheim 4-voice synth,
right?
Which, you know, we watched Joe Zawinul struggle with on stage, you know, because you had to tune each oscillator by itself. But it was like with that, there could be pads, basically.
Sure. Yeah,
you could have like good sounding chords.
Right.
So with those things in hand, with the synth thing emerging, it just seemed like the right thing. That was the right cast of characters to do that. And, you know, as far as why the success happened, I mean, honestly, I have to say, because we did every gig you could do for 3 years, right, in a van. I mean, we would drive from Dallas to Quebec City to Seattle to, you know.
And how much would you drive yourself?
I would drive almost all the time. Lyle and I were the two drivers. And, you know, we'd get Danny. No, Danny did some, Mark a little bit, but no, I mean, you know, we put, it was like, I don't know, almost 300,000 miles on that van in a few years. It continued on for another 10 years or so in our general operation, but no, I mean, we played literally, you know, $150, sure, we'll come. And, you know, I mean, I was barely paying anybody anything, you know, and those guys, you know, we were all 21, 22. It was, and we were on a mission from God too. We really, it was a band, you know, and we had a lot of fun. You know, it was a lot of work though. I mean, we really put on some miles, but every gig we would play 2.5, 3 hours. If there were 6 people there, we would do that. And then we'd come back the next time and there'd be 200 people. And that's the way it works now too.
Right.
You go out on the road and you play all those little gigs and you kick ass every single time, especially if you're playing tunes that are 15 minutes long, which we were.
Right.
But it was like, yeah, at the end of the 15 minutes, those 6 people would freak out, you know? And, you know, it wasn't like we were trying to be successful. We were just doing our thing, you know, and grateful to get a gig, period, you know. I mean, we did plenty
Pat, who was booking all these gigs? Was Ted booking your gigs at the time?
Well, during the time that I joined Gary's band, Gary had done a few gigs with a college student at Brandeis. I think he went to Brandeis. And Ted was working as an agent at some other place and noticed that Gary was in Boston teaching at Berkeley, and Ted said, you know, I can get you more concerts if you want. And Gary said, sure. And so Ted started his own agency. That was 1973.
I'd like to take a second to talk to you about this channel. This is actually Rick Beato 2. I've had it since the beginning of my main channel, and many of you are not subscribed. As a matter of fact, 87% of the people that watch this channel regularly are not subscribed. So I encourage you to hit the subscribe button on this channel and on my main channel. This will help me get even more of my dream guests and help continue to grow both channels. Thank you.
Pat, how do you tour with no cell phones or anything like that, driving around in a van? You stop, you advance the gig. You guys are humping your own gear.
There was no advancing going on.
No advance. You just show up at the gigs.
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, basically, they would give me the contracts.
Right.
And say, you know, get the $150 from Fritz at the end. And by the way, you have to give $3 to the union guy who's going to come.
Of course.
They still did that back then.
Right.
And good luck. You know, and I was the tour manager, the road manager, the everything.
Right. People don't even realize this stuff, that when they see you, they don't know that all this stuff went into that.
Well, and particularly, yeah. I mean, you know, I think a lot of people don't know, have the slightest idea of what the band leader thing that we've talked about a lot really is. And for me, for the first 5 years, that included everything.
Do you think, Pat, that the lack of success of a lot of jazz artists are because they were not in bands that played? Like, if I think about, okay, what are successful jazz groups? Miles Davis Quintet of the 50s, Miles Davis Quintet of the 60s, Weather Report, Pat Metheny Group. Chikriya, you know, Return to Forever, Mahavishnu. I mean, they were bands that played together. They were bands.
And they did a lot of gigs.
And they did a lot of gigs. And why is it that jazz players typically, though, they want to do gigs, they want to play with whoever, and they want to get paid. They don't want to be part of band. They don't want to be part of groups. And really kind of develop like what you developed with your group, with your vision of your sense of this is what our music sounds like.
I mean, I have some thoughts on that are broken down by different generations. You know, and that brings us back to are you the last old guy or the first new guy? In a lot of ways, this is another department, I do feel like I'm the last old guy. Because, yeah, I mean, you know, I would never accept people coming on the bandstand with music.
Right.
You know, did you ever see the Beatles reading charts?
No.
And I mean, now it's like I go hear so-and-so, it's like they're all reading these weird Sibelius charts that are kind of unplayable.
That's a real aesthetic thing. That's cool.
It is a thing.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. You know, you want it to be like a magic show.
Sure.
You don't want people to be involved in that stuff. Yeah. You know, it's like an orchestra, okay. You know, that's expected. I mean, we should be connected to the street folk music thing.
Sure.
But we're dealing with, you know, a different kind of material.
Yeah.
But it's of that.
Yeah.
And it always was of that until 1980.
Yeah.
And in 1980, something happened. We all know what it was. Instead of playing for your peers, suddenly everybody started playing for their parents. To me, that was a problem. I never played for my parents. You know, they liked it, sort of. I was playing for my friends, people my age and younger. I didn't want to play for my parents, and I didn't really care if my parents liked it or not.